Hello, I'm Brian Wilford, Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and this is MP Report. This week in Parliament, we've had quite the discussion about the proposed $6 billion tax cut to the largest corporations in Canada that's been proposed by the Conservative government. When the Liberals were in power, we reduced corporate tax rates from 28% down to 18% and then further down to 16%. That was in a time when we were in a surplus. Today, we have a $56 billion deficit. And it would seem completely inappropriate at this time to be offering the largest corporations in Canada $6 billion tax cut, which in fact means your money is going towards the largest corporations, who clearly at this point don't need it. Our tax rate with regard to the United States is 10% lower at the present time. Fact is, what could $6 billion provide? It could provide better schools, post-secondary education, health care, the proposal by our party with regard to family care to provide up to 6 months of time off for an individual to take care of a sick relative, family member. $6 billion tax cut at this time is irresponsible. And we had a motion in the House of Commons which said very clearly that this was not the way to go. And we were supported both by the NDP and the Bloc in the House of Commons. Now, the Conservatives claim that we are in favor of tax hikes. Absolutely not. But I will give you an example of a Conservative tax hike. That was on the 1st of January when EI premiums went up 5%. Again, when we were the government, premiums went down for 11 years in a row. You are being nickeled and dimed by the government. I believe very strongly that we need to have a balanced budget. I do not like deficits. As a former permanent secretary, both to the Minister of Finance when Paul Martin was Minister and to John Manley, I can tell you that getting into a deficit is very easy. Getting out of one is extremely difficult. The fact that the Government of Canada has really no plan, no exit strategy to deal with the deficit is a real concern. But why would you want to have a $6 billion tax cut to the richest corporations in Canada when we can't clearly afford it? That was a key issue this week. Another issue that I raised this week is I had a number of colleagues present petitions on behalf of a resident in Richmond Hill who is now currently under a death sentence in Iran, and that is Saeed Malikpour. I have now met with Iranian authorities on 3 occasions, most recently with the new Iranian Charge d'Affaires to Ottawa. And with that meeting with the Charge, I indicated very strongly that we want Mr. Malikpour returned to Canada safely. The fact is that the charges against him, in my view, are not warranted. And the details, obviously, is that we've had petitions presented. I've asked colleagues who have now put them before the House. I think it's important that we get the Canadian government to put some pressure on Iranian authorities. The Conservatives have been very quiet on this issue, and I have raised it again in the House, both with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I've written the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. I understand, of course, Mr. Malikpour is not a Canadian citizen, and even if he was, Iranian authorities do not recognize Canadian citizenship for someone born in Iran. But again, it does point out the difficulties that when someone goes back to a country of their birth, and that country does not recognize Canadian citizenship or even landed immigrant status, clearly it makes it much more difficult for us to plead on that person's behalf. Also this week we dealt with a number of issues in the House of Commons, including the Canada-Panama Free Trade Agreement, which I have spoken on before. In fact, we sent a newsletter out on that one. But also you would have received in the mail a budget questionnaire. That budget questionnaire asks you to respond to a number of issues, and we're going to be submitting a detailed letter to the Minister of Finance once the deadline is over. Now, the deadline in the brochure says February the 10th. Unfortunately, due to printing problems, they were not mailed out until late. My office was only made aware of it last week. So we've extended that deadline to February the 28th. You can either fill in the response newsletter form that you will receive in the mail, or you can do it online. Either way, we will obviously accept them up to February 28th. So again, ignore the February 10th deadline. February 28th, you have another 2 weeks to fill in, plus for that information. Your opinion is important to me. Your views are important to me, and they will certainly be important when we present them to the Minister of Finance as he prepares for an upcoming budget, probably towards the end of March. Again, this is Brian Wilford, and this has been MP Report. Thank you for